Welcome back to the Deposit That Podcast, New York City luxury real estate episode with Andrew from Team Fernandez at SERHANT. Andrew, welcome to Deposit That.
Thank you for having me here at 330 Grand in Manhattan, new development. Super excited to chat.
Talk to us about the upcoming real estate election that takes place next week and where you see pricing today and how potentially pricing can be impacted based on election results.
Well, listen, people are always in a little bit of their own whirlwind, anxieties, fears that are reasonable and unreasonable at the exact same time. And sometimes it becomes emotional. And so we do believe that after the election, no matter who wins, there's going to be a little bit of sorrow and joy at the same time, depending on who you are, depending on the outcome. But we are forecasting a big uptick in movement, in people more comfortable spending, and also looking again too. So we expect activity to trend upwards pretty much instantaneously after the election, and we are of course looking forward to that and seeing what Q4 has in store for us.
We spoke earlier briefly before obviously this episode about people wanting to make safe investments, safe bets today, buying tangible assets, and those more riskier, more lofty, bigger risk, bigger return days have quieted down a little bit. Touch on that from a real estate perspective.
Yeah, look, I mean, whether you're focusing specifically on real estate or outside of that, whether it be the inflation conversations or interest rates or the stock market kind of being up and down all over the place and nobody can really get their finger on the pulse, people kind of pull back a little bit. You start to see more reserved activity, and therefore, it used to be, I'll give you an example, new developments in New York City. You would develop a little bit further out, maybe an up-and-coming area or sort of the outer boroughs and things like this, and there would be absorption very quickly, and there'd be very little negotiation, and people were excited to take a chance on things and spend money, and things were moving around, everybody was happy. In a climate like this, where everybody's kind of tightened up a little bit, you're seeing those things being weeded out. People are less likely to take chances, both on the developer side, but also on the buyer investor side. It just doesn't seem like it's there. It's kind of like if you're a gambling man, you gotta hedge your bets and sort of be reserved when you need to be, and know when to hold them, know when to fold them, yada yada. So again, we're hoping that's going to completely take a turn for the best in the coming month or so.
Do you see new development projects that are hitting the market right now, like 330 Grand, where we're sitting at? Projects now coming that started 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago? Or are you seeing newer projects that are 2 to 3 years in now hitting the market? What are you seeing from that standpoint?
Well, you'll see both, but typically speaking, you'll see something that's on the shorter end of that, because building has never been more expensive.
Yep.
Construction loans have never been more expensive. Everything that goes into it, labor, etc. Time is money. I mean, that's obviously an old cliche, but it has never been truer. So you have to build. Typically, your turnaround, you want to be like, put a shovel in the ground within 18 months, that building better be done, depending on the scale, obviously, and the lot size and everything like that. But your typical New York City development, that's where you want to be 18 to 24 months max. And of course, there are exceptions where there's red tape and there's delays and unforeseen circumstances that are out of everybody's control. But typically speaking, that's your answer.
And what type of demographic on the Lower East Side is typically buying a new ground-up development or a luxury condo product?
Well, we're seeing, honestly, I mean, look, Fair Housing Act probably says you probably shouldn't answer that too specifically anyways, but the truth is when you say it's diverse, I mean that. So, whether you're talking about age group or whatever else, you have a lot of creative people that are drawn to this area. This area is one of the few New York City, in my opinion, that still has like sort of like that grit, but I mean that in a sort of positive way, which is to say there's an art scene here that's unmatched. There's hole-in-the-wall type places that are better than anything you could ever imagine. And that's whether we're talking about fashion or food and drink or kind of art curated spaces and things like that. So there's an energy here, there's a vibe.
Social aspect, right?
100%, without question, of course. So again, like that grit is not just, it's kind of messy here. It's kind of like, it's edgy. I love that. The graffiti scene and the arts and culture and the people watching, et cetera. And of course, there's just a vibrancy about it. So you have like people in tech, and you have a lot of creative designers. And of course, there's a relationship to NYU, so people sometimes look at that. There's a relationship to a lot of things, really, in this area that draws people from diverse backgrounds, and I mean that literally and figuratively.
Are you seeing a lot of older generations, or many older generations, buying new luxury condo units to rent them out? Or are you seeing more of, hey, I'll buy a new luxury condo unit just to live in with my significant other.
Most likely you're going to see them purchasing to live there for themselves, but there are exceptions to every rule. I mean, we've seen it all. Sometimes there's also the like quasi-investor. What I mean by that is, hey, my daughter's going to be living here for the next year or so, but the plan is then we're going to rent it out. Or, I'm buying for ourselves. Or by the way, we've also seen the flip side. Mm-hmm. We're buying this, we're actually going to rent it out for the first 3 years or so, and then we intend to take over. And so you'll see a lot of variety with that. It's not kind of like a plug and play, like this is it, this is the model, and this is kind of like the script. We've seen so much where we're expecting it to go one way and it's completely the opposite.
Sure. As far as competition goes, brand new luxury product, Lower East Side. What's the competition to this building?
I like to think 66 Clinton is probably the most comparable. It's actually been on the market for a little bit longer than us, but it's the same 12 units, which we have 12 units at $330,000. It's a similar kind of scale, and I would argue level of kind of design, that kind of thing. And then there's other, resales from buildings that are very comparable around here. But, you also have 139 Bowery over here. There's a few others. I would say Clinton is probably the apples to apples. I mean, there's a conversion to directly next door that's on sale too, $328,000 to plug them. But again, a little bit of a different animal. We're a little, we stand out in a way in that we're a small package, but we have a big bite. So like the fit and finish in here is really extraordinarily well executed, beautiful, high end, a little bit smaller of a package compared to, if you're thinking about 75 First or 150 Rivington from a couple of years back that has a few resales, and 50 Clinton and so on. So different, but we have something that some others don't.
So pack a mean punch here.
That's it. Yeah.
Now, as far as outdoor space goes today, are buyers demanding outdoor space? Obviously, all these beautiful units have outdoor space to some capacity. Then there's a beautiful roof with, you can see, I think, every building in Manhattan. Right. We're sitting in this beautiful backyard here. What are you seeing from a demand perspective for outdoor space, and what type of premium comes at that?
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, it varies, right? So specifically during the COVID era, outdoor space was premium. Having a private outdoor space that you could really use, and whether it was just come outside for your coffee, like they always say, but really a space that you can enjoy. Have a couple friends over, enjoy the outdoors, fresh air, things like that. Do your gardening, have your umbrella with your dining table out there eating al fresco, and that remains important. We're seeing a little bit of a decline from like the height of COVID, where it was like an absolute must. Sometimes folks wouldn't even look at an apartment if it didn't have outdoor space. Now that once you have shared outdoor space, that remains paramount. So to have a rooftop with beautiful views, you can see the sunset, make a barbecue, have a couple friends over, read your book, take the sun, whatever the case may be, that's still important. So you need to have some sort of outdoor space, and there's definitely a premium for buildings that offer quality, curated spaces that are outdoors. Outdoor space private, like this, we're sitting in one right now, there's certainly a demand for it. I'm just saying it's not as of a must.
Like I need
you have to have that box checked.
Interesting.
Yeah, but certainly to not take away from this, I mean, it is very unusual to have such a beautiful, large kind of blank canvas to make
quiet
your own.
Too.
Incredibly quiet, you're in the hustle and the bustle of the Lower East Side. To have an outdoor space like this where you can really make it your own Zen space, super.
Now, diving into you and your career, I know you specialize in new development. Mm-hmm. What do you look for in a development and a client before you choose to engage them?
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes it really works the other way around, where they need to interview us first. But if it is presented in such a way where we're looking, you want to make sure there's a seriousness to the design and sort of the development process. Oftentimes, not often, but there are cases where developers are kind of like only thinking about one thing, which is capital. Sort of how can we just slapstick, make this quick, build it as quick as possible, let's make our money, punch in, punch out. I don't care about the design. I don't really care if the layouts make a lot of sense. I want to make sure the dollars and cents make sense, my investors get their money back, our performer was right, move on to the next one, hurry up offense. That's not necessarily what we're looking for. And we have experienced some of those because you kind of take the
New York City, you got everything.
You got everything.
Yeah.
But what's wonderful about a project like $330,000, for example, is there's an emphasis on thoughtful design, and I mean that with respect to the floor plans, the flow, the natural light. There were studies that went into how the light is actually going to impact each apartment. The finishes, the fit and finish is obviously something that is what we're arguing for this size of a boutique building is pretty much top notch, and that's important because it resonates with people, but it also shows there's a dedication to craftsmanship and quality. And that's what you want when you're handing over the key. When you're handing over the keys to somebody, you say, "This is your home now." You don't want to give them that piece of crap where the guy was just in and out, and you got your
Home Depot kitchen.
Exactly, Home Depot, cheapo, builder's grade.
Yeah.
This is New York City. You want to leave your mark on things, and and we're happy to be a part of projects like that.
Would you consider this now a staple of the Lower East Side? Being, I mean, Grant's a main strip here, right?
For sure.
330 Grand
Right.
is like...
Right. Sometimes you'll hear like blocks and you're like, which one is that?
Yeah.
Or like, that's kind of on the fringe.
Yep.
Grand. I mean, you can't beat that, obviously. So without question, this is hopefully a small, I don't want to be too dramatic, but like a little beacon for the area, especially with respect to new development.
And everybody that's looking or watching this, price point range, cheapest to most expensive, what are the ranges?
Right now we're at, we start at just under 1.5, so 1.49.
Affordable.
Yeah.
1.5.
Well,
In New
depends
York
who-
City
In
standards.
New York City,
Yeah.
affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So quality, for the quality, yes, we would like to say that it's reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And we go up to about 2.8.
2.8 is the highest.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. Obviously,
pleasure.
we're going to do everything possible to help get you all this traffic and people
Amazing.
that see it, and hopefully we'll be doing business in the future.
Come take a look. Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you.
Thank you.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah.